Well, hello Glue Troopers, Max's Models here, and something I've been wanting to do a while is take a quick peek at model building the 60s versus the 2000s. So I have this vintage late 60s Grumman Wildcat by Revell, part of their famous 1/32 scale fighter series, and we're going to compare it to this new Tamiya P38 FG in 1/48 scale. And what we're going to be doing is just looking at some of the parts. So it's more of a quality of the kit type of thing. You know, what raw materials did you have to work with? So I thought the first thing we would do is let's take a look at some of the parts in the Tamiya kit. Now we have some pretty good rivet lines, probably a hint overscale to the real airplane, because if you go see one of these things in a museum, you realize that they don't really quite, the rivet lines don't really quite stick up as much as they do. Some of the details a little overstated. We definitely have flash in places. Very, very typical of a 60s kit model. That being said, though, it's still a very competent kit. This has a full interior in it. Of course, some of the floorboards and everything, they're very smooth. They're lacking much in the way of detail. But that's extremely common for the time. But they do have panels, radios and things that do have molded faces. And again, still little tiny bits of flash in there. A perfectly competent kit, and for the time, probably one of the best you could get. We look at, of course, you'll notice that for example, the horizontal stabilizers, they're two pieces, and so what you would expect in a kit of this scale, although there have been some that made them all in one piece. And the engine, sufficient detail for the scale. You have the push rods and everything. You have the armor plate. It's actually, there's really nothing wrong with this kit. Now I have one up on the shelf that I've built. It went together fairly well, no real argument, so I don't have any complaints. And of course it has the option for the open panels here if you want to show some of the engine detail. And this kit has working folding wings on it also. So you can have the wings extended, you can have them folded, or both, and I usually display it with both. Again, surface detail really looks good, although arguably a hint too pronounced, but that kind of overpronunciation of these things was not uncommon. You can see in the styrene there's some patterns in it, which just where it went through the, I don't know if they're showing up on camera, there you can sort of see some patterns in it. Once it's painted you won't notice those. Very detailed landing gear, little bits of flash, but not a big deal. Over time this has probably gotten a little brittle. Good looking propeller again, more flash. You know, certainly a little bit of sanding, but you can make a really, really good kit out of these. And now we take this and we compare it to a newer kit. Let me just set this back here. There's all the clear parts. These looks like the aftermarket being bagged. I think they look pretty good. Now, on the Wildcat, I did not have any trouble with the clear parts fit. Of course, there's a rather aging decal sheet, but I think I can still use that. And now this is if you want to make the early war before about June of '42. By the time the Battle of Midway took place, they had gotten rid of the red dot, obviously, because their enemy had a red dot for insignia, so it wasn't a good idea to have one on your airplane. Okay, so let's take a look at this compared to the P38, which of course is in 1/48 scale. So, but I thought being was a good example, and I already knew I had some parts open. Now again, beautiful molding, very crisp, as you would expect from Tamiya. I really don't see any flash, and completely detailed radio panels and everything, floorboards. There's actually more detail here than on the in this 1/48 scale than there is on the 1/32 scale. A couple of options on the instrument panel, And again, an incredible amount of detail on those. Tell you what, just magnificent. Of course, you're talking about molds that are not only newer, but are made with much more modern techniques and equipment. And until I built, now I've already built the Wildcat, so I know it fit relatively well, but P-38s always provide some challenges because of the odd shape of the fuselage and the wing and everything. So that's kind of expected, but it looks like everything seals up very nicely. And I don't anticipate any serious problems with that. Again, I would state that although you can see the panel detail on the wings, you can see the detail right along here, but you can't really feel it. It's that subtle, which puts it very much in register and scale. A lot of people use that panel line, which I have some of it, and I use it and they brush off the extra. It tends to smear on me. Sometimes I have trouble cleaning it up. One trick I had learned is after you paint it, just go over with a very sharp number 2 pencil. You know, make sure you have a straight edge or something, and it leaves a beautiful subtle seam line. Because remember, if you look at the photographs, control surfaces like elevators and ailerons, and these are already cut out, so they'll automatically be a line there. But they tend to sometimes be a little overstated, and I understand people trying to make it pop. But I've learned if you use a sharp number 2 pencil, a lot of times you get a much better line. So obviously, you look at the quality of the molds. You know, the newer one, as you would expect, is more to scale. Doesn't have the rough finish on it. And I'm not mistaken, I believe the Wildcats were flush riveted. So I'm feeling every rivet head here. Still, very nice kit though. That's not a complaint. But the P-38, everything, you feel it's all flush and smooth, yet the stuff is there, and it's just magnificent molding. So, given that there's 50 years between these two molds or more, it's not a quantum leap from one to the other, but obviously the newer one is a little bit better, which you would expect, especially from a company like Tamiya. But, you know, Revell, I had some fit issues. The Messerschmitt and the Spitfire, both of them, the canopies and windshields didn't fit very well. So there were a few issues. But overall, that's what you know, this is what you got then, and this is what you get now. Not a quantum leap, but definitely a step up. And of course, the other thing is the quality of the box art, which, as we all know, that sells the model. And here you have one of Jack Linwood's famous box art. Pretty sure this is taking place at the Battle of Coral Sea, judging by the markings on the Japanese carrier and on the airplanes, because this, as I said, the red dot early war. Then you also have this magnificent Tamiya artwork of Miss Virginia, and the pilot's Rex Barber, and I actually met him one time. A lot of people, now officially he's credited with being the one that shot down Yamamoto, although Yamato was a battleship. But if you go out and check out the guys who do the research on all this down in Palau, it looks like Yamamoto, excuse me, it looks like Yamamoto may have actually not been hit by gunfire like people said. They found what should have been his seat and in the Betty bomber, and looks like he may have survived the initial crash and died later. That's a subject of some debate, but there's evidence to point to that. But I don't want to start that debate right now. Anyway, just thought we'd do a quick comparison of, you know, modeling in the 60s versus modeling today. Oops, sorry, get that light off of it. Well, guys, I actually recorded this last night, although you're seeing it this morning. Be gone for a while. Sadly, no live stream for a week or two. Bummer. But in the meantime, I just thought I'd throw out a little content before I go. So I'll put this on a timed release premiere in the morning, so you have a little Saturday morning entertainment. Take care of yourselves, guys, and as always, model on.